Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As always, it is a pleasure to have you back on the channel. And in today's video, I thought I would give an update to some NFL predictions, talk about the season since my last video that I did in November, which I think was about week 11 or 12, something like that. So, let me start off by talking about where I got things wrong. I did not expect the Bills to finally get their ish together. They looked so bad for those couple of weeks. They barely beat the Giants, which are not a very good team. They lost to the Patriots, which might be one of the worst teams in the NFL. So I did not have faith in them, but as we've seen, I think they made a trade at the deadline. Yeah, they did. They made a trade for Rasul Douglas, and I don't know the exact impact he's had on their defense, but their defense has looked much better. Their offense is finally getting things together. Josh Allen finally looks like Josh Allen again. So I was wrong about the Bills, first of all. I was wrong about the Jets. I thought the Jets were going to be at least average. But wow, their quarterbacks have really screwed the pooch on that one. I thought the Raiders were going to be much worse than they are, but their new head coach, their interim head coach, has done a really good job getting those guys to play well and to maybe be in a position to squeak into the playoffs. They might even be able to win the division. Wouldn't that be wild? I don't think they're going to, and we'll talk about that as we go through the bracket here. But again, I did not expect this from the Raiders. Let me see. Who else did I have wrong? I have it right here in front of me. I was wrong about the Rams. I thought the St. Louis Rams, well, I don't know why I called them St. Louis. They haven't been in St. Louis in forever. The Los Angeles Rams, I thought, were kind of like the Bills in a way. I thought they were, I thought they were hopeless. They didn't look very good. They lost a couple of bad games, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, their offense is finally looking like it did a couple years ago. Matt Stafford is having a great year. I still have some reservations about their depth. I think they're one or two injuries away from being a practice squad team, but props to them for sticking it together. I was wrong about the Lions. I was wrong about the Vikings. No, I don't think I was wrong about the Lions' defense, because their defense still looks horrendous. I think I was more wrong about their opponent's ability to be not horrendous, because they played the Chargers, and I thought the Chargers were the better team that game, and then I remembered that their coach, their coach was a fraud. I forgot about that. So I think the Chargers should have won that game, and their coach cost them a very winnable game against the Lions, because the Lions, now, as I understand it, they've had some injuries on their defense, and that's maybe why it's not looked as good as it did last year, because last year they did have at points an above average defense. They looked way better last year, and this year their defense looks like one of the worst in the NFL. So maybe once they get a couple guys back and they get healthy, maybe they'll look better in the playoffs. I don't think, and we'll talk about this when we get to the Lions, but I don't think their defense needs to be good right now. But in the playoffs, it needs to be better than what it has been this season. But the Lions are mostly a glass cannon right now. Because they have let a lot of really bad teams play them way closer than they should. Like, they lost to the Packers, they lost to the Bears, they almost lost to the Vikings with a guy who threw 4 interceptions and looked terrible. He still had like 400 yards, but who cares about the counting stats when you're making such horrendous decisions, you know? We'll get into that. Anyways, starting off, we're going to start over here on the left side of the screen. We have the AFC conference games. So, as I was briefly talking about the Raiders, I think Antonio Pierce has done a great job getting those guys to play at a higher level. I think the Raiders right now, their defense is getting hot. Their offense is getting better. It's not great. I think there's still some questions about their rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. I don't think Aiden O'Connell has really showed anything for us to be like, oh yeah, this is the guy, right? I think he's proven to be a perfectly mediocre gap closer kind of guy, which is fine. So I don't know if they do make the playoffs. I don't have very high hopes for them. However, I like them more than the Colts this week. And the reason for that is because I think the Raiders have the better skill positions at tight end, at wide receiver, at running back. That's not to discredit Jonathan Taylor or anything, but Jonathan Taylor has not played very well. And that being said, I think Josh Jacobs is actually hurt right now. So that might be a moot point that on their running backs, but Devontae Adams clears anybody that the Colts have as a wide receiver. The Colts do have better corners, at least I think so. I think this will be a close game, but I'm leaning towards the Raiders. In this next game, I think it's a very easy choice. I think it's the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't know if I said this in the last video or not, but I think the Baltimore Ravens are easily the best team in the NFL this year. I don't think it's even particularly close. I think the 49ers are very good. Don't get me wrong. The 49ers are a great team. The thing I have with the 49ers, though, is both the Baltimore Ravens and the Minnesota Vikings back when they still had Kirk Cousins and could play a proper offense. I think they sort of, blew the doors off of the 49ers, and that concerns me. When you have these teams that, you're supposed to be a defensive first team, right? Very defensive. You run the ball a lot. That's sort of the identity of the 49ers. And then the Vikings and the Ravens come in and just knock your socks off, man. They're like, I don't know. It's tough. I think the 49ers are still the best team in the NFC. However, I think the NFC is significantly worse than the AFC. And when you get into this matchup with the Dolphins, I think if the Dolphins had Jalen Waddle, maybe it would be closer. But the problem is, and I don't actually know what teams Baltimore lost to, because I think there's one in there that was pretty embarrassing. But regardless, I think to beat the Ravens, you need a lot of offensive flexibility, and I think without Jalen Waddle, you don't really have that. Because the thing with the Dolphins, right, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is a phenomenal 1-2 punch. It might even be the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. However, cut Jalen Waddle out of the equation, what the hell do you have after that, right? Like, your tight end, I don't even know who it is, right? I have no idea who the tight end in Miami is. And then you go down the depth chart of these wide receivers. I think Jeff Wilson is a wide receiver, or Cedric Wilson maybe. I'm not really sure on the Miami Dolphins depth. And I think that Baltimore has the ability, has the players, has the defensive strategy to really limit Tyreek Hill. And I think if you do that against the Dolphins, I think you have a pretty good shot of winning. So I'm taking the Ravens. The Buffalo Bills, which I mentioned earlier, I honestly did not expect them to finally turn their season around. They looked so bad, right? They just looked, it was not good football. but I think they're finally gunning to be, we've, I think they've been knocked out of the playoffs, like, either as the first round or second round every single year. I don't think at least I can't remember. I think they may have played in one one AFC championship game, and I think they lost to the Chiefs in overtime. I think that's what happened. But I think the Bills are going to beat the Patriots because, again, I think the Patriots might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and maybe, at this point in the season, they're looking ahead and they're saying, hey, we could get a top 3 pick. We could really be up there and make a move for the next guy, right? So, and there's also been some talk about Bill Belichick maybe being done with the Patriots. Maybe Robert Kraft looks in another direction head coach wise. Maybe they ship him out for some draft capital. I don't really know what's going to go on there. There's uncertainty at the coaching position, and if that is the case, then maybe a new GM, a new front office wants to come in and just go get a quarterback right away. So I think maybe even if the Bills were as bad as they were earlier in the season, I think they'd still win this game because I think the Patriots might be done with the season. I don't think they're really out here looking to win anymore. So who knows? Now, this is an interesting one. The Houston Texans versus the Tennessee Titans. The Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud, rookie sensation, rookie of the year, easily in my mind. C.J. Stroud is coming back off of injury. I don't know how, to what level he's going to be playing. If he's playing like he did a couple weeks ago, then I think this is an easy win for the Houston Texans. I almost said Houston Titans. But I think this match is much closer than it was looking down the schedule at the last time I made a video like this. But I do slightly lean for the Houston Texans in this one. Next up, Cincinnati and Cleveland. Now, I don't know why I said Cleveland. That's Kansas City, not Cleveland. I apologize. I was looking at the top of the list. Cincinnati at Kansas City. Now, Kansas City has not looked great in the last couple weeks. They just lost to the Raiders. I think they have a lot of questions, especially at receiver. I think their corner depth is lacking a little bit. I think their safeties have been a little wishy-washy in compared to years past. Travis Kelce's getting a lot of work, but how sustainable is that to just constantly feed the one guy? I mean, granted, a couple years ago, 2020, something like that, when Tom Brady was in Tampa Bay, and all of his receivers were hurt, so he was just chucking the ball to Rob Gronkowski every play. So it has worked in the past. How sustainable is it? I don't know. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think, and I feel like I'm stuttering clock there, saying that over and over, but I don't think, because this is obviously not the Kansas City that we're used to. They've been eliminated from contention for the first seed. It's tough. The Bengals are playing on a backup quarterback. They've played really well in some of those games. It's tough, but I think I'd lean Kansas City just because they're at home. This next one, I'm actually going to go ahead and say the Chargers win in Denver. And I'm saying this because the Denver Broncos just officially benched Russell Wilson. There's a lot going on in Denver right now, and I think a lot of it is going to be very distracting for whoever. I don't know who their backup is. I don't know who's coming in to play for Denver in these last two games. I could probably find out, but I don't really think it matters. The Chargers are also on a backup quarterback this year. There's been a lot of backup quarterbacks this year. And the Chargers do have some injuries across the skill positions. They got a lot of interesting things going on with their roster construction and whatnot. But I think just because of the distraction of Russell Wilson getting cut, or not getting cut, that's likely coming later, but Russell Wilson's getting benched. I think it's going to be a difficult game for Denver to transition to their backup, whoever he is. So that's why I'm going for the Chargers there. These next two games, AFC versus NFC, I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars over the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, they're done. They've been done for a very, very long time. I'm pretty positive if they lose here, then the first overall pick is guaranteed for the Bears if they lose to Jacksonville. And maybe they don't want to give the first overall pick to the Bears for a second year in a row. So maybe they try harder to beat Jacksonville, but I just don't think they have the personnel to do that. I think their defense is really lacking, despite having some very good defensive players like Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns. I think Jeremy Chin is having a bit of a down year. I haven't really watched the Panthers, so I don't know for sure, but I think they've got some good players on defense. Their offense, however, oh baby. I think that entire offense in Carolina has to be rebuilt from the ground up. Luckily, Bryce Young is on a rookie deal, so maybe they'll have some money this offseason to go and get like a T. Higgins or a KJ Osborne, or I think there's a guy out of Jacksonville that might be headed for free agency. I know Hollywood Brown in Arizona is a free agent. I think Brandon Cooks is a free agent, so we'll see what they do there. Obviously, they need to get somebody that's not Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen is playing fine, but he's not playing like a number one receiver. So I think Jacksonville just has the better roster. They're at home. I think it's a pretty easy win for Jacksonville. The second game, though, this one's difficult. This one is difficult. Now, the Steelers, I think... let me check. The Steelers, I think, just won. Did they? Yeah, they just beat the Bengals pretty handedly. Mason Rudolph played really well, apparently. George Pickens had a monster game. So I think they might be able to ride that momentum off of a huge divisional win and beat the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks... I don't think they're the worst team in the world, but I think they're definitely a flawed team. So I think there is a possibility there, and this is like the hardest one for me. I think this is like a 50-50 game. This could go either way between the Steelers and the Seahawks, but I think I'm going to lean towards the Steelers after that game that they had last week, and we'll see. I might be wrong about that. What I don't think I'll be wrong about is the Dallas Cowboys against the Detroit Lions. They have, I think, the same record, right? Are they both 10-5? No, the Lions are 11-4. The Dallas Cowboys, I think, are in a league above Detroit by several miles. Like, I think the top three teams in the NFC, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Cowboys, I think, are just so far above everybody else. I think they're much more well-rounded. I think they have better quarterbacks than the Lions. So that's... I think there's a big separation there, especially because the Dallas Cowboys... Now, here's where it gets interesting, right? The Dallas Cowboys have a great secondary. Their secondary is playing very, very well this year. Their run-stopping game, their interior defensive line, is one of the worst. And where it gets interesting is the Detroit Lions have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. But their run-stopping is pretty good. You know, their pass rush isn't great, and their secondary isn't great. But their ability to stop the run is pretty good. So this game, in my opinion, granted, I'm not an expert, I'm not a coach, I think this game will come down to which style of defense is more capable, because the Cowboys have a great secondary that they both have phenomenal receivers. Detroit has Amon-Ra St. Brown. Dallas has CeeDee Lamb. They both have phenomenal receivers. So I think for Dallas, it's going to really come down to can they beat the secondary of Detroit, because Detroit also has a very good running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, a rookie running back that was drafted just this year, and a lot of people gave him shit for it because they did some maneuvering in the draft. They traded some picks around to go get Jahmyr Gibbs, and I was a fan of the pick from the minute they went and did it. I wasn't the biggest fan of their second pick. They went and got a linebacker with their next pick. I wasn't as high on that. But I loved the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. I think that was an incredible pick. I can't believe anyone ever gave them shit for it, because Jahmyr Gibbs is like a crazy good player. And granted, right, it didn't always look that great, because at the start of the year, they were easing him into the offense. They still had to get him used to playing in the NFL, because it's a different level than college, right? So they were still working on that, and it didn't look as good, right? I looked like a crazy person for defending the pick, basically. But now, Jahmyr Gibbs looks like one of the best running backs in the league, which I sort of expected. So I think this game will come down to who can score the most. I think this will be a shootout. Just because, the Cowboys can't really stop the run, so the Lions are going to run a lot, and the Lions aren't great at defending the pass, so the Cowboys are going to pass a lot. And I think, in that regard, the passing game is just going to be quicker. I think Dallas is going to get more opportunities to score, so I'm leaning Dallas for this game, but I don't think a lick of defense is going to be played in this game. At least I'm hoping not, because I want to see a phenomenal monster offense like we did I shouldn't say a couple, like way early in the season. I think it was week 5, the Miami Dolphins put up 70 on the Broncos or whatever it was. That was a really good game. I'm hoping we get like a combined score of like 106 or something in this game. I don't think that'll happen, but that would be my dream for this game between the Lions and the Cowboys. But we'll see. This next game, do I even really need to explain it? The Cardinals what do they have to play for? Nothing. The Eagles, they still have to play to hold on to the first overall seed. They still have to play for first. So I think this is an easy dub for the Eagles, and maybe I'm jinxing it, but who knows. Next up, we have the Rams at Giants. I think the Rams take this quite handedly. Rams are coming off an extra couple days of rest. I think it's like 2 days. So they have some extra rest. They've won a couple phenomenally important games to get into the playoff picture. A lot of people, are spreading conspiracy theories that the NFL is trying to get Matt Stafford against Detroit in the playoffs. I'm not trying to feed into that or anything. I think it's a fun narrative. But yeah, I think the Rams will curb stomp the Giants. Honestly, I don't see the Giants coming out of that one particularly well. Speaking of curb stomping, the San Francisco 49ers against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, I think, have one of the worst defenses in the NFL over the last 4 weeks specifically. I think they're giving up record numbers to every quarterback that plays them. I think I haven't really looked into the actual stat, but I know they're playing very poorly. And the 49ers just lost to the Ravens. Sorry. So the 49ers just lost to the Ravens. And I think they're pissed. I think they're going to take out all their anger on these poor defenseless Washington Commanders, and it's not going to be pretty. But we'll see. I think the 49ers are just going to walk the floor with them. And I'm hoping it happens in a way that gets Christian McCaffrey the MVP. I would love to see a non-quarterback win an MVP. And I don't think the 49ers are really the team that they are without Christian McCaffrey, so who knows? Maybe he'll make a case for it. It's unlikely, but we'll see. Next up, we have the Saints and the Buccaneers. The Saints are coming off of an extra couple days of rest, but I'm just going to take the Buccaneers anyway because the Saints have not looked good, man. The Saints have not. The Saints have a lot of issues. One of them being salary cap. So their cap situation is really, really bad, and they're not playing well enough to justify it. Especially at the quarterback position, Derek Carr hasn't looked nearly as good as he needs to. Jameis Winston has played a couple games, and he's Jameis Winston. So I don't know. I don't really believe in the Saints like I did back earlier in the season when they were playing better. I think back in November their offense was finally starting to click, and I felt as though they were going to be able to maintain that. That ended up not being true. I think they're gonna flounder their way into like the top 10 picks or something, like number 9, number 10, something like that. We'll see. Anything's possible. Speaking of anything is possible, I think the Chicago Bears, if Jacksonville wins and they're guaranteed the first overall pick, which granted, I don't know if that's true or not, but if that were to happen, I think they're going to play like mad dogs down the stretch just to say they can, right? I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run, a little bit of a spooky little, I think they might just try to get a higher seed in the division than the Packers just to be petty. But I think the Bears will honestly be a team to watch just for entertainment value if they are guaranteed the first overall pick. Because they have 2 picks this year in the NFL draft. So I think they're going to have some fun with it, and they're going to try to win their last 2 games. I don't think it'll amount to anything, but we'll see. Speaking of winning, a team that has not done much of that in the last couple weeks is the Minnesota Vikings. And my thought process in the last video, I don't know if I talked about it or not, was all they needed to be good was average quarterback play. What they have lacked in the last couple of weeks is remotely competent quarterback play. I don't think I have ever seen a greater example of what am I trying to say? I don't think I've seen a greater attempt to make Kirk Cousins look better than Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins playing quarterback on primetime television. I think one of their games was in primetime. I think the Bengals one. I don't know. I watched one of their games. It was the Bengals and Vikings. And oh my god. Oh my god. That was if I was a scout, if I was an NFL scout, I'd probably drink myself to death after watching that game. Good heavens, the decision making was not there, but you know, the wide receivers certainly were. You know, if you ever wanted to watch a game between 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL, watch Bengals versus Vikings, where you can watch T. Higgins and Justin Jefferson bail their quarterbacks out of every terrible throw that they've ever made. It was a great showing by the wide receivers. Quarterbacks, not so much. So this game, as I understand it, the Vikings are starting another new quarterback. And again, I think, much like the last video I made, I think they just need a quarterback to play averagely. Right? Like, I mean, granted, up until recently, because between the Bengals and the Lions, the defense kind of fell apart. But before that, the defense was playing like one of the best in the NFL. which was surprising. I don't know many Vikings defenders. I just was looking at some of the stats and the leaderboards and whatnot, and they had an incredible defensive stint for a while, and they lost 3 games because of it. I think what did I read? Something like they lost 2 or 3 games by a combined total of 6 points or something. And they weren't giving up touchdowns either, and they still were losing. And it's like, wow. If that doesn't tell you the importance of the quarterback position, I don't know what will. But getting back on track, this game is very important for the Vikings. They're playing to try and get back into playoff seeding because they were there, right? They held the keys in their hand for most of the season to just make a playoff push, despite all of the injuries, all the bad luck that they were having. And they whiffed it. They whiffed it real bad. Because they were the 6th seed for a while, and they were alone in the 6th seed. I think they had a chance to, if they won like 2 games, I think they had a chance to basically secure it. That didn't happen. And now they might be on the couch in January. So I don't know who their next quarterback is. I don't know what's going to happen with that. What I do know is that they beat the Packers earlier this year. Granted, they had Kirk Cousins. And the Packers benched their best corner. Quote-unquote best. He's kind of a clown. They benched a very good corner, we'll say. They benched a key piece of their defense for conduct detrimental to the team. And I think that's going to be a bit of a distraction for the Packers. I think that's going to greatly assist Justin Jefferson in his ability to be one of the greatest wide receivers of the year. Despite missing all those games, he's probably still going to get 1,000 yards. Justin Jefferson's a very, very, very good player. It's like Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, and then everybody else. So I think there is a formula there for the Minnesota Vikings to win this game. And because they're at home, I'm going to say that they do it. I think the success will be short-lived, but we'll get into it. Coming up now, into the Week 18 schedule. The Jets and the Patriots, I don't think either team cares. I think this is going to be an effort to see who loses. And I think the Patriots might just lose a little bit harder than the Jets, the Bills, and Dolphins. I think the Bills can win the division with this. Yes, they can. Therefore, I think they will be playing to win the division because they've won the division for the last 3 years in a row, I want to say. And I don't know that they're going to be very comfortable giving that up just yet. So I think the Bills will be playing for the division, and I think they will play very hard to secure the division. I think the Baltimore Ravens, as I said previously, I think they're the best team in the NFL. Don't think it's particularly close. However, it is a divisional matchup, as all of these are. And I think that those are the toughest for Baltimore. I think 2 of their 3 losses, I think, were to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure. But I think that's how they acquired some losses. Who knows for sure? They are at home for this. It's tough to say. Cleveland, I don't know if they can improve their seeding, and I don't know that they go anywhere with losing. Let's see. Yeah, if they lose, they don't go anywhere. If they win, they don't go anywhere. I think they might honestly just rest some important players for this game because their seeding doesn't change. And teams do that from time to time, where if they go into a Week 18 or Week 17 game and they can't improve or worsen their playoff seeding, they'll just take the L and prepare for the game that matters. So I think that might be what happens there. The Colts, do they get in if they win this game? They do. they do get into the playoffs if they win this game, do they stay there? I think they do. Unless the Raiders... Yeah. So, we'll talk about this in a second. I think because the Colts can get into the playoffs, I think they will play very, very hard. However, I think C.J. Stroud just barely edges out as the better player to win this game and go to the playoffs. And then this is where I think the Raiders are going to be praying to any god they believe in for Jacksonville to lose, and then they win. Yeah. So, do I think Jacksonville will lose to the Titans? Not particularly, but this will get really interesting to see who's the 7 seed in the AFC, I think. Because somebody with a positive record is going home. In this instance, it's probably the Raiders. Because again, I don't think the Broncos are going to win their last 2 games. I think the Broncos have effectively thrown in the towel. And the Chiefs, with winning against the Bengals in the previous week, secure the division. They don't really need to play for much here. I still think they're going to win. I think they're better than the Chargers very slightly, just because of Patrick Mahomes. Their skill positions are, aside from Travis Kelce, are entirely forgettable, but what am I saying? I think the Chiefs just win just because the Chargers don't have anything to play for, and they're out of it. Maybe they're just trying to get a better pick to maybe get a receiver, because boy howdy, that's an interesting development going on in LA. There are rumors that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are getting cut at the end of the season, but I think I'll talk about that. I think I want to do a mock draft video, so I think I'll talk about that there, but we can get into it later. Anyways, these are the AFC predictions. We'll see what happens. Only 2 weeks left, but the AFC has the Ravens, the Browns, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Jags, and the Texans all making it into the postseason. Now we play for the NFC. Now, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have already won the division at this point. The one thing I have with playoff predictors is I wish they had some indicators to know that kind of thing. But whatever, it's not the biggest deal in the world. So I think they've already won the division at this point. And they can't improve their seeding. So I think they may just rest some starters and lose to the Carolina Panthers, because I think also if the Panthers win, I don't think it saves their draft order, right? Where's the Cardinals? If the Cardinals lose, yeah. So it doesn't adjust their draft order by winning. Not that it matters, because the Panthers pick is already with the Bears. If the Cardinals win, I think the Patriots get number 2. Yeah, they do. So the Cardinals might just be trying to keep the second overall pick. So that's the sort of justification here for why this looks the way it does. It's all because of playoff seeding, basically, and draft order. That's why the Panthers maybe beat the Buccaneers in Week 18. We'll see. But, yeah. The Dallas Cowboys beat the Washington Commanders because they're horrible. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the New York Football Giants. Now, this is, I think, going to be the game of the week with the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Because I think that personally, I think that Minnesota Vikings are way too talented to not be in the postseason, except for quarterback. Everybody else is playing so well, despite all of their injuries, The coach is doing such an incredible job to even make Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins look half decent for a quarter, right? For a single quarter in a football game, people actually believed that these guys deserved to start. So that's just credit to their coach, right? And I, I don't want to envision a world where Justin Jefferson isn't in the postseason. And I don't think the Lions can improve playoff seeding in this game, right? Yeah. So the Lions can't improve playoff seeding, and the Lions have split their divisional games with everybody else already, meaning the Packers and Bears. And I said in my last video I was very confident that they'd split with the Vikings too. I just thought the Vikings would do it at home. But I think just barely, I think they do split again. And part of it is because the Lions aren't playing for anything in Week 18 in this specific scenario. They can't improve their seeding. They can't. Well, actually, hang on. If this happens... Okay, no. It doesn't matter. The San Francisco 49ers still own the 2 seed if they lose and the Lions win. So, yeah, they can't... I just had to fact check myself there. They can't improve playoff seeding no matter what happens there. So, I think the Vikings might be able to make it in. I don't know if they'll go anywhere in the playoffs, but I just don't want to envision a world where Justin Jefferson isn't playing in January, because that would break my heart, because I don't get to watch Jefferson for another year in that scenario. I already missed so many wonderful days, so many wonderful weeks of watching one of my favorite players play football, going back to the LSU days. I loved that 2019 LSU football team. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. I love Justin Jefferson, so I want to see them both in the playoffs for many, many years. Of course, Joe Burrow's out for the year. Justin Jefferson has a chance to make it to the postseason, and I am hoping, I am coping that Justin Jefferson makes it to the postseason. So that is my justification there. Again, the Vikings had such an easy path. They were in the driver's seat. They held the keys. They could have made it so easily to the playoffs, right? They had such a ridiculously easy path to the playoffs, and they have squandered it. So they might squander it some more. But I am just hoping for a Justin Jefferson postseason appearance. And as I said with the Bears earlier, I think, should they secure the first overall pick, I think they will be playing for pettiness just to have a better record than the Packers. And I think they're going to do it. And I think it'll be very funny and very entertaining to watch that happen. So in this scenario, the Bears win. This is another game that just doesn't mean anything except for draft order. So right now, the Falcons and the Saints are 11 and 12, and I think one of them moves into the top 10 with this loss. Yes, they are playing for the 8th draft pick, and this also moves the Commanders to 3 apparently, which is something I didn't know. But which team wants to lose more? Which team wants... Honestly, you know what? I'll flip a coin. Hold on. I have a coin right here. Okay, hang on. I'm going to call heads. Hang on a minute. I dropped my coin. Okay, I'm going to call heads. I should have clarified, I'm calling heads for the Saints, but it was tails, so... The Falcons win, due to my coin flip. And then this is another one where playoff seeding doesn't really matter, I don't think. No, it does. Okay, so the 49ers would be playing for the first seed. In that case, in that case, I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to play their hearts out and win that game, which would be very entertaining. However, if we go by the conspiracy that the NFL wants the Lions and Rams to play each other in the postseason, it might look more like this. I don't really believe in that notion, but there are people out there that do. So I think the 49ers will win that game and take the first seed. And then we get into the exciting part, right? This is the exciting part of the video where we have playoffs. So I think everything over here I think is super easy. I think it will be Cleveland over Jacksonville. I think it will be Miami over the Chiefs. And I think it will be the Bills over Texans. I'm just taking the better roster in all of these. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. However, I think the Dolphins have the better defense. I think they have better skill position players. At least running back and wide receiver wise. Obviously, the Chiefs have the better tight end, but I think the Dolphins are the more complete roster. So that's why I'm taking the Dolphins over the Chiefs. That might be a hot take. That's what I'm doing. This is my video. In this scenario, I think Baker Mayfield, the poor man, is going to be slaughtered by the Dallas Cowboys, and it will be a very tragic day for any Baker Mayfield fans, but that's just how it is. I'm taking another upset. I'm taking the Rams over the Eagles. I think the Rams have been playing so very, very well, and the Eagles have stumbled a little bit, and I think this would be more entertaining, if not for the fact that watching Philadelphia explode would be very funny. I think watching Eagles fans lose their minds after a divisional round loss would be some of the funniest things we've seen all season in the NFL this year, because it's not been a fantastic year. So, football wise, so I think this would be the most entertaining. This right here is the battle of mid, in my opinion. I don't think either of these teams are really that good. I think the most entertaining option would be the Lions to win, because they haven't, right? When is the last time they won a playoff game? Like 1960? Who knows? So I think entertainment-wise, makes more sense for the Lions to win that. And I have no idea what the quarterback situation will be for the Vikings. If this was the Kirk Cousins-led Vikings team, I think they could go all the way to the Super Bowl. But it's some backup that I've probably never heard of, so that also gives us... Oh, no, it doesn't. Never mind. The conspiracy matchup will not happen. So, anyways, the AFC first. I will take the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this might be a hot take because the Buffalo Bills have been playing so very well the last couple games, but so have the Browns. And I think in this instance, yes, the Bills are at home. I do think they have a better offense. But in the playoffs, defense and run game. Defense and run game. And Cleveland has the better of both, in my opinion. So, I think Cleveland takes that one, which may be shocking to some people. But that's what's happening in this world that I've predicted. So, you can argue with me. That's fine. My justification is defense and run game, which is also kind of true for the Ravens. Kind of. Run game, not so much. Defense, absolutely. But I think I think Jalen Waddle should be back by this game, but I don't know if it will be enough. They will have more offensive flexibility. If the running backs are healthy, I think the Dolphins can put up a better fight than they did in this world. In this hypothetical, I think they put up a better fight this game than the last one. But I still think, maybe it's because I'm just a big Lamar Jackson fan. Maybe that's a bit of bias, but I think the Ravens are the better team. So, we'll see. In the NFC, I don't really think it's close. I think Dallas is better, and I think the Niners are better. Again, it's we'll see how the Lions defense improves with some of the guys that are coming back off of injury. I still don't know that they can really contain, even with the guys that are coming back, I don't know that their secondary will get that much better because their secondary is lacking so many pieces in Detroit. So I don't know, and I think Dak is still the better quarterback than Jared Goff, regardless. But maybe if we believe the conspiracy theorists, maybe this will happen. But I think personally, I think Dallas and San Francisco and the Eagles are just a tier above everybody else in the NFC. I think the NFC is weaker than the AFC, but I think these three teams at the top are the closest that can contend. So again, I think it's more about just I think both of these teams have a more complete roster than these other two. But we'll see. Into the conference championship games, these I think have the potential to be very good games. The Cowboys and the Niners have had a historic rivalry over the years. I think that has potential to be phenomenal. I'm going to pick the 49ers. I think they're the more well-rounded team. I think the Cowboys have the better quarterback, but I think the 49ers have the better run game, and Dallas's rush defense is somewhat lacking. So, that could get them into trouble in this week with the Lions. We'll see. Even if that was the case, if the Lions were here in the championship, I still think I'd take the 49ers quite handily. But we'll see. And then in the AFC, I think this game will be much closer than this game. I think these two teams will be fighting like mad dogs. I think this will be a game of the century, perhaps, between these two in the championship. I'm still taking Lamar Jackson, though. I'm still taking Lamar Jackson. So this would lead us to a rematch of the first Super Bowl I ever watched on television, which was 2016? I don't know. This was the Blackout Bowl. The Super Bowl where the blackout happened. Half the stadium lost power. There's conspiracy theories that it was done intentionally because the one team was winning super hard. And Randy Moss was also in this Super Bowl. If you didn't know, the great Randy Moss was on the 49ers. They lost to the Ravens. And I think it'll happen again. I think the Ravens will beat the 49ers yet again in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I say yet again. They've won 2 Super Bowls, right? I don't know. But regardless, they beat the 49ers the time that I watched it. So I think they'll do it again. This is the final bracket here, as you can see. These are my predictions. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I don't know if I may have gotten a little bit too excited there. I don't know how soft I was actually speaking. This may not be a traditional ASMR video, but I hope you did enjoy regardless. And I will speak with you all again soon. Goodbye for now.